All right, so we're diving into something pretty intense today, prepping for a crisis situation social worker interview.
Yeah, these roles are all about making a real difference when it matters most.
Absolutely, and we've got a whole stack of RoleCatcher resources to help you nail it, career guides, interview guides, even info on their AI tools.
It's a field where preparation is key, so we'll unpack some of those common interview questions, strategies, plus those insights from RoleCatcher's career guides.
And get this, RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze job descriptions and tell you exactly what skills to highlight. It's like having a secret weapon against those applicant tracking systems.
It really is, and they have a massive library of interview questions too, over 120,000. It's like having a personalized interview coach.
Okay, let's jump right in with a classic interview question. Can you tell us about your experience in crisis intervention?
Sounds simple, right?
Yeah, but I bet there's a lot you can do to stand out.
Absolutely. Don't be vague. The interviewer wants concrete examples. Think about situations where you successfully intervened. What did you do? What were the challenges? And what was the outcome? Specifics are key.
So instead of just saying, I'm good at de-escalation,
Right.
you could describe a specific time you calmed down an agitated client using specific techniques.
Exactly. And highlight those skills: active listening, empathy, problem solving. And be ready for those follow-ups. They might ask, what was the most challenging crisis situation you faced and what did you learn? They want to see how you handle those tough situations and how you grow from them.
So it's not just about what you did, but also what you took away from the experience.
Exactly. Now let's tackle a tricky one. How do you approach working with clients in crisis who may be resistant to receiving help?
Oh, that's a tough spot. Wanting to help, but also respecting their autonomy.
Absolutely. It's all about building trust. Emphasize your ability to listen, validate their feelings, create that safe space.
You're not forcing help, but building a bridge.
Right. And RoleCatcher's career guide mentions that social perceptiveness is a top skill for this role. 73% of employers look for it. That probably comes into play here.
For sure. Reading those nonverbal cues, understanding the client's emotional state, and adjusting your approach accordingly.
All crucial.
So give an example of how you de-escalated a situation with a resistant client.
Yeah.
What strategies did you use? How did you build that trust? What was the outcome?
And be prepared for the interviewer to dig deeper into your process.
Okay, next up, safety. How do you prioritize the safety of clients and those around them during a crisis intervention?
This is where your knowledge of risk assessment shines. Show them you can think clearly under pressure. Describe your process for assessing risk and developing safety plans.
They want to know that you can identify potential dangers and make good judgments to protect everyone.
Right. And they might ask, have you ever had to make a difficult decision that impacted client safety? How did you approach it? This shows your critical thinking skills and your ethical decision making.
Speaking of ethics, this might be a good time to touch on RoleCatcher's AI feedback tool.
Oh, yeah.
It can help you analyze your responses and ensure they align with professional standards.
Absolutely. It's like having an ethics expert in your pocket, making sure you're presenting yourself in the best light while adhering to those ethical guidelines.
Okay, let's shift gears to something really relevant these days. Can you tell us about your experience with trauma-informed care in crisis interventions?
This is a big one. Be prepared to articulate what trauma-informed care means to you and how you integrate those principles into your work. It shows you understand the impact trauma can have on a person's behavior.
So it's not just about responding to the crisis in the moment, but understanding the underlying factors that contribute to it.
Exactly. And be ready for a practical follow-up, like, how would you create a trauma-informed environment for a client experiencing a mental health crisis? They want to see you translate those principles into action.
So think about specific strategies like creating a sense of safety, empowering the client, and validating their experiences.
Absolutely. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor your responses to specific job descriptions. If the position emphasizes trauma-informed care, you can use the tool to fine-tune your answers and really showcase your expertise.
All right, let's talk teamwork. Can you tell us about a time when you had to collaborate with other professionals during a crisis intervention?
They want to see you can communicate effectively and work towards a common goal with other professionals, like police officers, paramedics, doctors.
So don't just say, I'm a team player. Give a specific example. Did you coordinate care? Share critical information? How did you ensure everyone was on the same page?
Right. Think about a situation where collaboration was key to a successful outcome. Highlight those communication and problem-solving skills.
And remember, RoleCatcher's career guides provide insights into the specific skills employers look for. You mentioned reading comprehension earlier.
Yes. That's essential for understanding medical records, legal documents, and policies. Be ready to discuss how strong reading comprehension skills have helped you in past roles.
Okay, let's talk about a question that requires real sensitivity. How have you handled situations where a client's cultural background or beliefs differ from your own during a crisis intervention?
This is all about demonstrating cultural competence. Share a specific example of how you successfully navigated a situation where cultural differences were present.
Did you adjust your communication style? Seek additional resources? How did you ensure you were providing culturally sensitive care?
It's about showing respect, understanding, and a willingness to adapt your approach to meet the client's needs.
And before we move on, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about RoleCatcher's AI and tailoring your answers.
Here.
It's important to remember that every job is different, and the AI can help you identify those keywords and skills that are most important to highlight in your responses.
Exactly.
So, for example, if you're applying for a position that emphasizes community outreach, you can use the AI to make sure your answers reflect your experience in that area.
Precisely. It helps you fine-tune those responses and present yourself as the ideal candidate for each specific role.
Okay, let's dive into some more questions. What about crisis stabilization techniques?
They might ask, can you tell us about your experience with crisis stabilization techniques? This is where you show off your knowledge of specific interventions that can help de-escalate a crisis and help a client regain control.
So be ready to discuss things like grounding exercises, active listening, problem-solving strategies, and safety planning.
Yeah, and be prepared to share a story about a time you successfully used a stabilization technique to de-escalate a crisis and support a client's well-being.
Great. And what about de-escalation techniques?
Similar to crisis stabilization, they might ask about your experience with crisis de-escalation techniques. The interviewer is looking for your ability to calmly and effectively manage those intense situations.
So it's about staying calm under pressure and using those verbal and nonverbal techniques to de-escalate the situation, create that sense of safety, and help the client regain control.
Exactly. Share examples of specific de-escalation techniques you've used effectively, like active listening, validation, redirection, and setting boundaries.
And again, be prepared to share a specific story that highlights your ability to calmly and effectively de-escalate a crisis situation, emphasizing that positive outcome you achieved.
These interview questions are really designed to get to the heart of what it takes to be successful in this role. They want to understand your experience, your skills, and your approach to handling challenging situations.
And remember, RoleCatcher's AI tools can be such a valuable resource for tailoring your responses and ensuring you're presenting yourself in the best possible light.
It really is like having a personal coach guiding you through the process and helping you showcase your strengths.
Okay, we've covered a lot of those common questions.
Yeah.
But what about those curveball questions they throw in to see how you think on your feet?
Yeah, because, crisis situations are rarely predictable. They want to see if you can handle the unexpected.
Exactly. Like, what if they ask, imagine you're faced with a client whose cultural background is very different from your own and they're in crisis. How do you bridge that cultural gap while still providing effective intervention?
That's a great one. And it highlights the importance of cultural competence, which is becoming increasingly vital in this field, according to RoleCatcher's research.
Yeah, they talk about a growing emphasis on providing equitable and culturally sensitive care.
Absolutely. So how would you approach that situation? First, acknowledge that cultural differences exist and can really impact a person's experience. You can't assume your approach will work for everyone.
So humility and self-awareness are key. You're not the expert on their culture,
Right.
but you are there to listen and help.
Exactly. Active listening is crucial. Take the time to understand their perspective, their beliefs, their values. Ask clarifying questions to avoid making assumptions.
And don't be afraid to acknowledge your own limitations. If you're unsure about something, it's okay to say, I'm not familiar with that specific aspect of your culture. Can you tell me more?
Absolutely. It shows respect and a willingness to learn. And if there are language barriers, be proactive about finding a qualified interpreter.
That makes sense. RoleCatcher's Career Guide also emphasizes strong communication skills, both written and verbal.
For sure. Those are essential for clear and effective interactions with clients and colleagues.
And don't forget about that nonverbal communication. Be mindful of your body language and tone of voice.
Absolutely. You want to convey empathy and respect in every interaction.
It's all about building that bridge of understanding and trust. You're not there to change their beliefs or impose your own. You're there to help them through a crisis in a way that respects their culture and their identity.
Okay, now let's talk about another aspect of preparing: Understanding the work environment and demands of being a crisis situation social worker.
Right. It's not just about acing the interview, but also knowing what you're getting into.
Exactly. And, this job can be incredibly rewarding, but also incredibly challenging. RoleCatcher's Career Guide highlights that you might work in a variety of settings, like hospitals, clinics, community centers, even emergency scenes.
So you need to be adaptable and comfortable working in different environments, sometimes under pressure.
Exactly. The guide also mentions that the work can be fast-paced and stressful. You need to remain calm and composed in those challenging situations.
Yeah. It's not your typical 9 to 5 desk job.
Yeah.
You might deal with unpredictable situations, long hours, and emotionally charged encounters.
And that's why self-care is so important in this field. You need healthy coping mechanisms and a strong support system to manage those emotional demands.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher's Career Guide also talks about some industry trends. They mention a shift towards more community-based care, focusing on early intervention and prevention services.
That's an interesting point. It's not just about responding to crises after they happen, but proactively working to prevent them.
So you might be involved in outreach programs, community education, or working with families and individuals to build resilience and support networks.
Yeah. They also highlight a growing emphasis on integrating physical and mental health services for a more holistic approach to care.
So you might work closely with other healthcare professionals to address those complex needs of your clients.
For sure. Now let's switch gears to researching the specific organization you're interviewing with.
Right. It's not just about the role in general, but how it fits within that specific context of the organization.
Absolutely. Do your homework. Visit their website, read their mission statement, check out their annual reports, and see what programs and services they offer.
Look for news articles or press releases that mention their work. Get a sense of their values, their culture, their impact on the community.
And be prepared to discuss how your skills and experience align with their needs and goals.
For example, if you're interviewing with a hospital that specializes in trauma care, highlight your experience with trauma-informed care and collaborating with medical professionals.
Exactly. Tailor your answers to show that you understand their work and how you can contribute.
Speaking of tailoring, we've talked about RoleCatcher's AI helping with your resume and interview practice. What about finding the right job in the first place?
Oh, that's where their job search feature comes in. You can search by keyword location and even salary range.
So you can narrow your search and focus on opportunities that match your criteria.
And their platform goes beyond just listing those openings. They provide insights into each employer, including their size industry and even company culture.
So you can get a better sense of whether an organization is a good fit.
And here's a cool feature. You can set up job alerts to be notified as soon as new positions matching your criteria become available.
So you're staying ahead of the game and not missing out on any opportunities.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's platform is constantly updated with new jobs and insights. It's a valuable resource for staying informed about the job market.
Now, I know preparing for this interview can feel overwhelming, but it's also a chance to showcase your passion, your skills, and commitment to making a real difference.
Yeah, this is a career where you can have a profound impact on individuals and communities, helping them through some incredibly challenging moments.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. RoleCatcher's got your back from finding the right job to acing that interview.
They have the tools, the resources, and the expertise to empower you on your journey to a fulfilling career.
So take a deep breath, embrace the challenge, and get ready to shine. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from really understanding what the role demands to tackling those tough interview questions.
Yeah, and of course how RoleCatcher's AI can give you that extra edge.
It really is like having a whole team of career coaches and prep experts in your pocket right there.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, I always like to leave our listeners with a little something extra to think about.
Always good to keep those mental gears turning right.
Absolutely.
Well, we've talked about handling cultural differences. But here's a twist. Imagine you're in a crisis situation, and a client is expressing beliefs that you find morally or ethically objectionable.
Oh, wow.
How do you reconcile your personal values with your professional duty to provide compassionate and non-judgmental care?
That's a question every social worker grapples with at some point. It really highlights the importance of self-awareness and professional boundaries.
You're not there to change their beliefs or impose your own.
Right.
You're there to help them through that crisis regardless of their views.
Exactly. Everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, even if we don't agree with them. Our role is to provide support and guidance without letting our personal opinions interfere. It's a delicate balance and might require some soul searching to really understand your own values and biases.
Absolutely. And seeking supervision or consulting with a more experienced social worker can be so helpful in navigating those complex situations.
Definitely. So what does all of this mean for you? You're walking into that interview prepared for anything.
Right.
You understand what the role demands. You've got those compelling stories to tell, and you've got RoleCatcher's AI in your corner.
And just as importantly, you're entering this field with a thoughtful approach to the ethical complexities that you might encounter.
For sure.
It's not always easy, but it is incredibly rewarding to be there for people during some of their darkest moments.
You've got this. Good luck out there.
The world needs more compassionate and skilled crisis situation social workers.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way, from finding the right job to acing that interview and navigating the challenges of this really important work. We're cheering you on.
That's it for this deep dive into preparing for a crisis situation social worker interview. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.